Susan Boyle was born on April 1st, 1961, in the small town of Blackburn, West Lothian, Scotland, the youngest of 9 children in a working-class Catholic family where space was tight but love was steady. Her father, Patrick, a miner and World War II veteran, sang warmly in local pubs, while her mother, Bridget, worked as a shorthand typist and carried deep faith into the home. Life was modest and often difficult, with siblings sharing beds and blankets, but music and prayer filled the house, giving young Susan her first sense that beauty could exist even in struggle. A childhood marked by difference. From a very young age, Susan faced challenges that set her apart from other children, including epilepsy that caused unpredictable seizures and frequent absences from school. At the time, understanding of neurological conditions was limited, and her needs were often misunderstood by teachers and peers alike. She struggled academically, found social cues confusing, and felt overwhelmed in loud or crowded environments, experiences that later aligned with her autism diagnosis, but were then interpreted as oddness or slowness. The pain of being misunderstood school became a place of fear rather than learning, as classmates mocked her speech, appearance, and mannerisms, giving her cruel nicknames that lingered for years and left lasting emotional wounds. Teachers often failed to intervene, and Susan learned early how isolating it feels to be different without knowing why. These experiences quietly shaped her personality, making her shy, guarded, and deeply sensitive, yet also resilient in ways few could see. Finding refuge in music became Susan's sanctuary, a place where confusion faded and emotion finally made sense. At 12, she joined her parish choir, where her powerful voice immediately stood out, earning her solo parts and, for the first time, genuine praise. Singing hymns in church brought her peace and belonging, and even when seizures interrupted rehearsals, she returned as soon as she could, determined not to let her condition silence her voice. A glimpse of possibility. Encouraged by her mother, Susan entered her first local talent competition as a child and won, a small victory that planted a seed of belief she would carry for decades. Without money for formal training, she practiced alone at home, mimicking singers she admired and imagining herself on grand stages far beyond the walls of her living room. These moments were quiet, private dreams, but they kept her hope alive through years of hardship. Growing up without a label, living undiagnosed with autism, made everyday life exhausting, as Susan learned to mask her discomfort and retreat inward to survive. Crowded classrooms, harsh lighting, and sudden noises overwhelmed her senses, and she developed habits of withdrawal that followed her into adulthood. While others mistook her quiet nature for weakness, it was actually a survival skill, one that later made fame particularly challenging. Leaving school and facing reality, Susan left school at 16 with few qualifications and entered government training programs designed to help young people find work, but the bullying followed her there as well. After eventually leaving those programs, she took various low-paying jobs while continuing to sing whenever she could. During breaks at work, coworkers would stop and listen in surprise as her voice filled the room, offering fleeting moments of validation she rarely received elsewhere. Putting dreams on hold, when Susan's mother's health began to decline, she became her primary caregiver, placing her own ambitions aside without complaint. Caring for her mother was an act of devotion that defined her adult life for many years, and music became something she pursued quietly through church events and small community performances. Though her world felt limited, her voice continued to grow, shaped by responsibility, love, and patience, training and rejection. Determined to improve, Susan took singing lessons and acting classes to build confidence and overcome her shyness, pushing herself even when anxiety made it difficult. In 1986, she auditioned for a televised talent search, only to be rejected with comments about her appearance that deeply hurt her self-esteem. The rejection sent her into a period of withdrawal, reinforcing long-held fears that the world would never accept her as she was. Years of quiet persistence. Throughout the 1990s, Susan lived a modest life, working long shifts while caring for her mother and singing at karaoke nights and local pubs. Her performances were heartfelt rather than showy, and regulars came to recognize her voice long before the world did. She saved what little money she could, holding on to a dream that felt distant yet impossible to abandon. Trying again and falling short. In the mid-1990s, Susan made another attempt at national television, reaching regional finals but faltering under pressure during a live performance. The disappointment reinforced her belief that big stages were not meant for her, and for years afterward, she avoided auditions and public competitions. Still, the desire to sing never faded, even when confidence did. Faith as an anchor. After her father's death, Susan leaned more deeply into her faith, singing regularly in church and at religious gatherings that brought comfort and purpose. Her voice found strength in sacred spaces where judgment felt absent and emotion was welcomed. These years, though financially difficult, allowed her artistry to mature quietly, free from public scrutiny. A life changed in a moment. Everything shifted on April 14, 2009, when Susan walked onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent at age 47. Nervous and unassuming, she faced visible skepticism from both audience and judges, a reflection of how often she had been underestimated. But when she began to sing "I Dreamed a Dream," the room transformed, and her voice silenced every doubt in a moment that would be replayed around the world. Overnight, fame and its cost. Susan's audition became a global phenomenon, earning millions of views and turning her into an international symbol of hidden talent. While the public embraced her voice, the sudden attention was overwhelming, and the intensity of fame triggered anxiety and exhaustion she had never experienced before. Doctors later connected these struggles to autism, finally giving context to a lifetime of sensory overload and social difficulty. Record-breaking success. Her debut album, released later that year, shattered records and topped charts across dozens of countries, proving that her success was more than a viral moment. Susan insisted on staying true to her musical style, resisting pressure to conform to trends, and her authenticity resonated deeply with listeners. Despite her success, the pace of work was grueling, and the demands of the industry took a toll on her health. Navigating a demanding industry. As Susan's career grew, so did the challenges of managing fame while protecting her well-being. Long tours, relentless schedules, and constant public attention often left her physically and emotionally drained. Over time, she became more vocal about the importance of rest, boundaries, and understanding the unique needs of artists who experience the world differently. Triumphs on her own terms. Through subsequent albums and world tours, Susan continued to achieve milestones few could have imagined during her early life. She performed on some of the world's most prestigious stages and earned records that cemented her place in music history. Yet she remained grounded, returning home to Blackburn and living simply, never losing sight of who she was before fame. Health challenges and resilience. In 2022, Susan suffered a stroke that temporarily robbed her of speech and singing, marking one of the most difficult chapters of her life. Recovery required months of therapy, patience, and quiet determination, and much of this journey unfolded away from the public eye. When she eventually returned to the stage, her presence carried new meaning, representing not just talent, but perseverance, advocacy, and self-acceptance. In later years, Susan openly shared her autism diagnosis, reframing her life story with clarity and compassion. By speaking honestly about her experiences, she helped foster understanding and acceptance for others who felt unseen or misunderstood. Her willingness to be vulnerable transformed her into a powerful advocate for neurodiversity and mental health awareness. Choosing a simple life. Despite her wealth and global recognition, Susan remained devoted to a modest lifestyle, valuing privacy, routine, and independence. She often spoke about the importance of personal peace over external validation, choosing solitude and creativity rather than constant public exposure. This grounded approach became part of her enduring appeal. A legacy of hope. Susan Boyle's story is not just about fame, but about the quiet strength it takes to keep believing in yourself when the world does not. From a bullied child in a small Scottish town to a voice recognized across continents, her journey reminds us that talent has no deadline, and worth is not defined by appearance or circumstance. Her legacy continues to inspire millions to listen more closely, judge less quickly, and never give up on the dreams that live quietly inside.